multi-influencer, Singularity University mentor, Scott Amyx.
So boy tells his mom, "Mom, I don't want to go to church today." So the mom says, "What in the world? You need to get your butt up and go. You're 47 years old and you're the senior pastor, for heaven's sake." Well, speaking of resisting, my son says the darndest things. When I ask him to do something, he says, "It's impossible, Dad." "Son, I just asked you to take the garbage out." "But Dad, it's impossible. Mop the floor." "No, I can't." So I asked him, "What is possible?" He says, "Well, I can play daddy and you can be my son. So actually now I take the garbage out and now I mop the floor." So have you heard of the saying, "It's not possible"? Familiar to you? Any of you? In 1961, there was a Czech inventor, and he wanted to make a breakthrough in the field of sight. And he wanted to do it using this. If you're not sure what this is kind of like Connects or Legos. So you would say, that's impossible. Otto Wichterle thought otherwise. Instead of the usual response of, "No way, it's impossible," he said, "How do we do it? How do we do it?" Do you know what the most frequently asked engineering interview questions is? The question is, what was the most challenging technical project that you worked on? And do you know why the interviewer asked that question? Because they want to know how you overcame technical challenges, not how you gave up. Right? This world has immense problems. Immense problems. From rising temperatures, record highs in the Arctic Circle, Finland and Norway up to 31 Celsius or higher. Wildfires up to 6,000 square kilometers in California just this year alone, not including wildfires in Scandinavia. And when air pollution is compounded with wildfires, the health consequences are significant. And our fragile ocean ecosystem is heavily challenged. Lack of water, lack of arable land, lack of natural resources is leading to violence. When we see images like this, we say, it's impossible, it's overwhelming. Yet, how do we do it? How do we create sustainable cities that are livable? In the city of Prague, when we talk about a sustainable city, it's this smart bench that can charge your phone. But let me ask you, what is the sustainable city of the future look like? This is Singapore's Master Plan 2025. Immediately what you see is, right at the heart of the center of the city is all this greenery. Even the buildings, the skyscrapers are green. The city is being powered by renewable energy and it's sustainable. And notice, there is lack of cars. People are walking. They're using mass transit. The cities of the future are going to be very different from today. Now, Singapore has two primary missions. One is to become an innovation-driven economy, and the other one is to become a lovable city. Now, how do they define innovation-driven economy? They define it by saying, when there's ample, vibrant, good-paying jobs, when there is sustainable businesses, and when there are new, vibrant markets, that's how we know. This Smart City ranking by IESC shows us something. And behind the data is quite a bit of statistics. If you look at the far right column where it says cities in motion, that is your ranking of smart cities. But what you see is that there is a high statistical correlation between sustainable cities with higher economic output, higher GDP, higher human capital, better social cohesion, better environment, technology, and mobility and transportation. And this is Prague. This is an opportunity. How do we do this? How do we do it? How do we increase the ranking of Prague as a city, but also as the Czech Republic as a country? How do we increase our ranking so that we can reap all the benefits that comes with sustainable, smart cities? The answer is data. You see, what smart tech does is starts to quantify everything around us, including us. But connectivity is just the plumbing. The real value is, what do you do with that data? The data starts to inform us in terms of better design, better urban design, better industries, better health and happiness. Smart city is not about finding the quickest route. Rather, sustainable city is about what is the right thing to do based on data. So if the data says you really need more mass transit so that you have less congestion on the freeway from Prague to the airport, and you have less CO2 carbon emission. The data starts to tell you where you need to start to lay your bike lanes based on the actual bike patterns. You see, city planning becomes a science, even to the extent of how obese we are. Now, scientists at the University of Washington are able to determine the obesity level without even looking at you. Using their convolutional neural networks, using about 150,000 satellite images of cities, they're able to study health indicators, such as if they know there's a pet store, there's likely a good chance that there's more people walking their pets. If you see more greenery, like this, it means that people are walking more. And what they realize is that when there's more spacing between buildings, people have to walk more. So that reduces the obesity level. You see, data begins to shape and help inform and guide and strategically develop urban planning. Most of the growth in population is going to happen in urban cities. 66%, according to the United Nations, will be in cities in India, China, Nigeria, and other parts of Southeast Asia and Africa. In those countries where they're not starting with legacy of 3, 5, 2,000-year-old cities, they can afford to build their cities from the ground up. And their cities are going to look vastly different from what you think of cities today. One of the things that's very interesting is that parking. When you think about autonomous commercial vehicles, which are oftentimes not as well publicized as the passenger side, but also you take into account the resident or the consumer autonomous vehicle fleets in the context of shared economies. What happens is these vehicles, commercial or not, starts to be in motion constantly. You see, they don't have a need to park in the center of the city anymore. They can afford to be at the subterranean level where the people are on top, or they can be on the outer rings of the circle, operating 24/7. What you're seeing here is that in Los Angeles, there are some 17 square meters that's dedicated to parking alone. That's equivalent to 1,400 football fields. Does that make any sense to you? Does that sound like sustainability? Moreover, when we think about flying autonomous vehicles, that's also going to change the need to have these dedicated blocks and blocks of parking garages. From Airbus to Aston Martin's flying vehicle concept, this sector is starting to heat up. But you see, as useful as data, what happens is, when data gets combined with other disciplines, with AI, robotics, blockchain, mixed reality, it starts to create this transformation of industries. And that is the power of exponential technologies. In the most polluted cities, this is how they cope with air pollution today. Would you like to go dancing? What scientists are working on is this CO2 mineralization. You see, magnesium carbonate naturally is able to pull in CO2 from the air, but the process of that mineralization is a very slow process. So what they're doing is they're taking a state where they're taking negatively charged ions that are attracting these positively charged magnesium ions to speed up the process of forming those mineralization. And when you think about it in a large context, it starts to provide possible means for us to remove CO2 in a systematic way from power plants, from the ocean, and from the air. Now raise your hand if you're a terrible dancer. Don't lie, because we're going to have dancing later tonight, and we'll know who can't or can dance. But the great news about this is, regardless whether you can dance or not, if somebody could play the video, that would be great. Whether you can dance or not, thanks to AI plus data, all of us can become great dancers. Can somebody play the video, please?
Anything on your computer, you need to get grammar.
I write pretty much all day, every
Wrong video. I'm a very patient person, but it's still the wrong video. It's worth waiting, I promise you. Because if you thought that you couldn't do some of these moves from what's that video game, now you can actually do it. And the best thing is, you can be a great dancer on Instagram, at least. All right, how are we doing with the video, guys? Bypass it? So now she is a terrible dancer. She's a researcher. Okay, but what's happening is, you can see that there is a benchmark. That benchmark has these points, just like in a 3D vector. And it is actually taking real life images in real time, changing it to suit this skeletal body image. It's incredible. All right, thank you, appreciate that. Let's go back to the slides. So what does this mean for Czech Republic, aside from dancing lessons? It means that smart tech is transforming manufacturing and industries. And more importantly, what's happening is the traditional human assembly line that we so much rely upon is starting to become hyper-automated. So, let me show you a quick video, and let's see if we have trouble with this video or not. If you're able to play it within the first 10 seconds, great, otherwise we'll pass it. But what you're seeing here is the automation of the electric engine, where human intervention is almost minimal to none. And we're going to see more and more of that. So I just yesterday visited up north in Ústí, where there's a large sector of assemblage. But those good jobs may potentially go away very soon. So then what would happen to this country? So I guess we're going to skip it. Unless Czech Republic chooses to diversify. I had a conversation with the former Czech Invest last week, and he said that for the last 3 years, Czech Republic has been working to diversify away from assembly line into something that's more sustainable economic development. What you're seeing here is that up north in the Scandinavia area, Czech Republic is sitting on one of the largest tin and lithium mineral deposits in the world. And when you think about what's happening in the electric vehicles and how that is ramping up, and particularly driven by the EV quotas by China, we're going to need lots and lots of lithium-ion batteries. Matter of fact, some even call this as the oil of the future. But it's more profound than that. You see, the volumetric energy density doubles every 10 years because of research and development in batteries and storage. And you can see where we are and where we're headed. But let's take a look at it even in a bigger context. When you understand what's happening right now in terms of electric vehicle and the ecosystem that's being built up and needs to be built up, and then where things are going with hydrogen fuel cells, this is an immense opportunity for Czech Republic. Just yesterday, I spoke with researchers and scientists at Czech Tech University, where they're actively working on hydrogen fuel projects that's been provided by the industry. When you hear all this, your natural response is, it's impossible. But let me ask you, just take a deep breath. And ask yourself, how do we do this? Rather than focusing on not possible, let's focus on how do we do this? Abraham Lincoln grew up in absolute poverty. He grew up in this tiny little wooden cabin with just one single room for his entire family. And he had only 1 year of formal education. The business that he started, he failed. He ran some 8 times for political office, and he lost. 3 out of his 4 children died when he was young. By any measure, he was a walking failure. What if somebody like him came up to you and said, I'm going to run for president? You would say, that's not possible. Abraham Lincoln became one of the greatest presidents in the United States. He was more than himself. He was holding the beacon of light for humanity. Even to the point that it cost him his life. What sacrifice are you willing to make for your country? Abraham Lincoln said, the best way to predict your future is to create it. Thank you.